Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good couple of times before. So the last beers that I've had from these guys were very nice actually. The last two in particular were along the same sort of style vein as the one that we're going to try today. So I'm curious to see whether this one carries on in that same sort of vein or whether it differs at all. So yeah, curious to see what this one has in store for us. So fingers crossed it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then we are going to head to a little place called Surte, which is to the north of Gothenburg, Göteborg, up there on the Swedish west coast, and we're going to have a look at my fourth beer, I think it is, from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri. So this particular beer is called Indio. It comes in at 7.3% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, let's see how we go with this one then. So the last two beers that I had from this brewery, the first one was the Local Memory. That was like a West Coast type pale ale. Then we had the Ecstasy of Gold, which was just listed as an IPA, not a New England or whatever, but it was more New England to be honest with you. And those were both really nice. So like I say, curious to see how this one turns out. But these beers that we've been trying recently were actually sent to me by the brewery. I think it was Eric who sent me these, and yeah, he sent me these three along with an Imperial Stout as well on the back of my very first review, which was the Renegade Priest Black IPA, and that was very good actually, so do make sure you check out that one if you get the chance. But all of their beers seem to be pretty damn solid so far, so give them a go and see what you think. But yeah, the El Indio 7.3% New England IPA from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri in Surte to the north of Gothenburg. So yeah, let's see how we go with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri. Like I said, there is an Imperial Stout to review from them soon, but we will do more beyond that, I'm sure. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri then, on to my brewery notes. So Beerium, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Surte to the north of Gothenburg, Göteborg up on the Swedish west coast, and this company was founded back in 2018. So the brewery has 7 owners. This is Martin Polno, Fredrik Reinholdsson, Matthias Jidlöf, Erik Höglund, Marcelo Mille, Malte Hed and Emil Stashing. And I'm convinced I pronounced that guy's surname wrong. I'm not sure how you do the X in Swedish, but anyway. But Surte, where this brewery is located, is part of Ale municipality. Ale as in A-L-E, like beer in English. But they wanted to include Ale in their name originally, but the authorities stopped them from doing this, even though other breweries had used the municipality names in the past. And this seemed to be their main motive for blocking the move, if you like. But the original idea was that the brewery name would be Ale Kraftölsbryggeri, which I think is pretty cool. But instead they went with Beerium, and I still think it works. A beer emporium, I guess we could say. But the brewery, the original brewery, is based in the old power station in Ale, which closed back in 1978, and they started off with a 200-litre brewery, and they've just gradually added more tanks to increase their fermentation capacity. But in 2019 they opened their tasting bar at the brewery, which is called Beerium, and they've also started a members club as well, which they're hoping will help them invest further in the brewery infrastructure, you know, new tanks, bigger brew kit and so on. But in March of 2021 they announced that they were going into a partnership with Lilla Edits Brewery to form a new production company, which is called Untappd Brewhus, and the plan is for this new company to be equipped with a 1,000-litre brew kit, and the first brews are planned to take place there in November of this year, 2021. But both breweries will keep their other breweries to produce smaller batches. It is intended that Untappd Brewhus is simply a kind of larger scale production facility, if you like. But as of July 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 50 different kinds of beer, and they will no doubt add more to that in the near future. They've got a vast array of styles that they've done, And yeah, they always seem to be pushing out new things, which is great to see. A very, pardon me, experimental brewery. So yeah, hopefully they keep that going forward. But the beers that I've tried from them so far seem to be pretty damn solid, actually. So yeah. Interesting stuff. So do check out these guys if you get the chance. But that's all I can really tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's get cracking then and see how we go with this beer. So just a little quick look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see, it seems pretty nice. It's a little bit different from the ones that we've had before, but it does have the typical Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri symbol there. Not on the bottle cap, of course, it's just a plain black bottle cap. This one is a 330ml bottle. This time I cannot tell you what it costs because, of course, Eric very kindly sent me to it, and I'm not even sure if this one is available through Systembolaget, in fact. So yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you that. But like we said, a 7.3% New England IPA, this one. And it says it goes well with banjos and it passes well with banjos and beans, apparently. So there you go. So yeah, good. 7.3% New England Hazy IPA. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. Curious to see what this one has in store for us, because the last IPAs and things have been pretty nice. I'm curious to see what the Imperial Stout has as well, actually. So that should be very interesting. So sugar the last little bit up and get it out and into the glass. There we are. No real sediment on the bottom of this one either, which is kind of interesting, but it has poured very nice and very hazy, and you can't really ask for much more than that from a New England IPA. So yeah, before the head disappears on this one then, you can see that it's poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say kind of creamy coloured head. It looks like a very solid creamy coloured head on this one rather than being, you know, cream white or anything like that. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But when we shine the light through this beer, it doesn't make too much of a difference to the colour. You can see that this one comes in with a rather kind of murky, sort of peach juice type colour. I always like comparing the New England IPAs, of course, to different fruit juices, because that's just what their appearance reminds me of. But yeah, this one reminds me of a more kind of mixed tropical fruit juice, like a peach juice or something like that. So that is certainly quite an interesting point to make about this one. But yeah, looks the part. So yeah, remember, the colour of these beers depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. That determines the magnitude of the colour of your beer, of course. The length of your wort boil also plays a role too. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do and any adjuncts that you add into the beer will also play a role in determining the colour of your beer as well. But yeah, in terms of a New England IPA, like we say, this is one of the darker, more murky ones that I've come across in terms of yellowness, I guess we could say. But yeah, it's certainly not out with the realms of possibility in terms of its appearance. I've seen New England IPAs like this before. The level of haze on this one for a 7.3 is pretty impressive, actually. It is starting to lean towards that soupier and gloopier end of the spectrum, which I quite like. So yeah, very interesting stuff, I have to say. So yeah, I think that it's great, actually. It really, really looks the part, this one. Lovely big hazy note to it. So remember, the hazy part of the beer is dependent on, one, the the wheat content, two, the oat content, and then also the yeast is going to play a role in this as well, actually. So just bear that in mind with this beer, with these New England IPAs. There's quite a few variables at play, but as we say, in terms of appearance, there's nothing particularly surprising about this one. So let's take a closer look at the aroma and just see how we get on with that with this one. So yeah, let's go for it then. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away with this one, the aroma comes across as really nice and smooth, and also at the same time big and fruity and juicy. So I really like how that pieces together in this one. There's some really, it's got a really nice kind of vibe to it, this beer overall. As I've told you in previous New England IPA reviews, for me there's a couple of different directions you can take these beers in. They can be more farmhousey and yeasty, they can be sort of rye leaning and grainy, they can be a little bit more kind of wheaty and bitey, oaty and creamy, barley malt leaning and bready, or they can be a little bit more kind of brown sugary leaning. And this one seems to exhibit a few, quite often they will exhibit a few of these kind of traits, if you like, or leanings. But yeah, I mean, this one to me, first off, it's got a mix of a few different things, but it's quite a smooth New England IPA. This one, lovely and soft and juicy. I think this is going to be pretty nice. So let's try and break the aroma down for you properly and analyse it, as we always do. So yeah, first off with the aroma then, you can smell a backbone of a kind of soft white bready note to the beer. It's got a lovely kind of barley malt, soft fluffy white bready character to it. If you go to either end of that, it's got a wee bit of a more kind of bread crusty element to it as well, but you can certainly smell a lot of oaty character in this one. I think I get the feeling that this is barley malt and oats all the way. You can smell a really big, thick, creamy oaty character coming out of this beer, just sitting on top of the bready note. So yeah, the aroma coming out of this one I think is lovely in that sense. But yeah, the oaty creaminess is really big and thick in this one. On top of that as well, you can certainly pick out an element of brown sugar. I do get an element of a kind of pure sweet caramel sitting on top of that, but there's a lot of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing on top of the beer as well, or on top of the oats, I should say. So yeah, barley malt, big thick fluffy barley malt bready base in there, a bit of bread crust, nice kind of oaty creamy sort of thing. Then as I say, wee bit of a kind of Werther's Original butterscotchy butter candy thing, then some sweet caramel on top of that. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes together in that sense. It really is quite nice actually. But yeah, on the malty and yeasty side of things, I do like how it goes about how it does its thing. But yeah, at the back of the nose, you certainly get a wee bit. You can smell like a thicker yeasty component to the beer, like a more airy white bread, if that makes sense. But you also get just a little touch of wheaty bitiness to this one. But the malt base comes across as really thick in this one, so I'm quite excited about that. I always enjoy a good malt base in a beer. It's the Scottish Sweet Tooth, as I've said in numerous reviews before. But I think that covers all we need to say about the malty side of things. Let's focus on the hoppy part of the beer then before we taste it. But yeah, hoppy side of things is pretty much what you'd expect. There's a little bit of earthiness in there, but not a lot. You've got a very slightly herbal character, this one, with a wee bit of smoothness, some lovely big floral aromatic notes in there as well. But I don't find this beer too pungent in terms of its floral aromaticity. Then on the and as we say, at the front of the nose you get a softer kind of grassy note to it, and there's a wee bit of there's a little bit of a kind of lighter grassiness. You just get a wee bit of zestiness out of the grassy character as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, the green component for me actually comes across as very, very soft rather than having a bit of pungency and a bit of bite to it. So that's interesting too. But let's look at the fruity part of the beer. So if you take the aroma in quite deeply, you do certainly get a wee bit of a kind of juicy, you get a bit of a kind of pungent passion fruit out of it, but not a lot. For me, it's a lot of juicy tropical fruit that you get out of this one. So big mangoes, certainly. Apricot in there, absolutely. So I really like how that goes together. Yeah, soft apricots in there, big juicy mangoes, and also a bit of, quite a lot of pineapple for me. I do wonder if there's a bit of Idaho 7 in this, because it gives you a lot of these softer tropical fruit qualities that you often get from Idaho 7. But of course, there's many hops it could be these days. It could be something like El Dorado, it could be a bit of Simcoe, Victoria's Secret, Galaxy, although I think it's a bit not pungent enough for Galaxy. So yeah, there's a whole host of things that it could be, but I think it's most likely, just from what I can smell, I think I would wonder if there's a wee bit of Idaho 7 in this one, just because of the softness that it has, although it could be something like El Dorado, although I don't know how popular either of these hops really are among the Swedish brewers at the moment. It seems to be that different things get popular in different countries at different times. And it's always exciting for me when I go home and take a wee trip to Scotland. You get different hops in the IPAs then than you do in Sweden, which is great. But yeah, but fruity wise, yeah, quite tropical. There is a wee bit of an orangey character to this one as well, and it does almost have a wee bit of that kind of coconutty thing. I do wonder, could this be Sabro and Idaho 7? Could it be something like that? Because you certainly, as you say, you get a soft kind of tangerine but slightly more oily, orangey character in there, and it almost has a wee bit of that kind of coconutty sort of thing underneath it too. So I wonder, could it be a wee bit of Sabro and a wee bit of Idaho 7? I don't know. Interesting. But yeah, there's certainly a sort of tangerine orangey note to this one for sure. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer again is quite soft, and it's quite in keeping with this with the whole vibe of this beer, I would say. But yeah, definitely take a little bit of time to ponder this one over before you have a taste of it. But I think it is about time for us to have a go at this one now. So yeah, this one is the El Indio 7.3% New England IPA from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri in Surte to the north of Gothenburg, up on the Swedish west coast. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, cheers, and thank you to the brewery once again for sending this one to me. Let's see how we go. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, this is a big, smooth, creamy thing actually. Yeah, big, smooth, creamy New England IPA, this one. It's quite nice actually, but like I say, it's very, very thick, this beer. You could kind of get the impression that it was going to be from the aroma, in fairness. Yeah, I like this one. As I say, it's just, it's very, it really leans towards that very soft, kind of creamy end of the spectrum actually, and it really is good. I'd be curious to see what this is like on tap actually, because I'm assuming on tap it would be even thicker than this. So it's surprising the level of thickness they can get out of this in the bottle. But like I say, it's a very soft, smooth, and drinkable New England IPA. I like the vibe that this beer has. It's quite different from other ones that we've had in recent times actually. Like I say, it doesn't have so much in the way of kind of hoppy bitterness or wheaty bite or things to it. It's a very soft, very, very creamy New England IPA, this one. So bear that in mind. This one is, you know, big, big, smooth, oaty type thing. But I do like it. I do like it, yeah. So, interesting stuff. It's not a million miles away from the Ecstasy of Gold, although the Ecstasy of Gold had a bit more zip and stuff to it, as I say, a bit more wheaty bite and a wee bit more kind of bitterness, as I say. And I think that's kind of what Eric wanted, because I asked him if he could send me a more West Coasty IPA and a more New England type one. I don't think they had a West Coast at the time, so he sent me you know, the sort of two variations. The other one, I'm pretty, you know, I think it's safe to say that was a New England IPA, but it had a bit more wheaty bitiness and hoppiness to it. This one really leans towards the oaty end of the spectrum. But in fairness, the pale ale that we had, the local, called the Local Memory, that was like a West Coast type pale ale. And to be honest with you, I would probably say that that pale ale was my favourite of the three. But I'm a sucker for the kind of West Coast malt bases and things. But that's just me. So we've seen the two ends of their New England production, I guess we could say. But this is a big, big creamy beast of a beer. Pardon me. Let's try and break this down a little bit for you and describe the flavour a wee bit more succinctly. Let's do that. So, on the malty side of things, then backbone of the beer, you can feel that soft white bready character just going right across the middle of your palate there. So I do like how that goes together. So soft white bready elements to it. Over the so the soft white breadiness is there, and that goes right across the middle third and the back third of your palate. If we focus on the middle third of your palate just now, you can feel the sort of fluffy white bread just sitting on top of that. And if you go to either end of that middle third of your palate, you can feel there is a wee bit of a kind of more grainy bread crusty element there. And then on top of all of that bready note, that's when you get the big kind of oaty notes. Although in fairness, there is a soft kind of wheaty layer in the middle. So yeah, thicker barley malty white bread in there, slightly thinner, wheaty layer, and then on top of that a big oaty creamy sort of thing. It's nowhere near as kind of sweet as I thought it was going to be from the aroma in terms of the brown sugars, but you do get a little bit of that. So in the very dead centre, of that middle third of your palate, you get a sweet caramel in there, and spreading out from that, you get a little bit more of a kind of more, as I say, you get a little bit more of a kind of Werther's Original butterscotchy brown sugary sort of thing to this one, a butter candy if you like. So yeah, it's quite a straight shooting beer, this one. It doesn't do anything that's really surprising for the style, but it's quite well crafted. But as I say, this is definitely one of the smoothest and kind of thickest oaty New England IPAs that I can say that I've come across, definitely. And the thing that's also nice about it is that it definitely has a wee bit of that rawness. You know, it doesn't come across as being too refined, actually, which is nice. And you can say that about these Beerium beers. They are small batch brewed. I mean, if you go, you know, it is the sort of thing, if you go to like, you know, OO and Steepyates and things like that, and I guess Opigords as well, who brew these things. Probably Opigords brew the biggest batches of New England IPA in Sweden, I would think, with their big factory that they've got. And you know, I do like it when you come to these smaller breweries, because you can just taste the sort of rawness of the beer, and you get that in this one. It does come across like it's just got a wee bit of that kind of homebrewed character to it, you know, the fluffiness of the yeast and stuff like that. So yeah, you can certainly feel that in this one, and I think that's part of the charm of trying beers from these smaller breweries, actually. But I just wonder what this thing's like on tap, because it's certainly a big thick beast anyway. But yeah, I think that covers the middle third of your palate with this one. Let's go on to the back third of your palate. So border region between middle third and back third of your palate. Again, you get a wee bit of a bready build up in there. Yeah, wee bit of bready build up in there. There's a nice wee bit of a kind of, how do we say, you get a nice wee bit of a kind of grainy bread crusty sort of thing as well. Then into the back, into the back third of your palate, as we say, there's a, how would you say this? There's definitely a wee bit of a kind of, more, you do get a little bit more of a kind of wheaty bite on top of the soft bread, but the white bread certainly then, so you get a bit more bread crust to it. Wheaty layer is there and a wee bit of bitiness at the back, but then on top of it, you've certainly got a little bit more of a kind of airy, yeasty type note to the beer as well. So when you start from the back of your palate, you can feel the flavour sort of condenses down a little bit as you come further forward. Then into that middle third of your palate, it's certainly a wee bit more kind of squashed together in a sense. So yeah, the sort of fruity, why am I saying the fruity? The malty, yeasty side of this beer, I think, goes together quite well. But let's focus on the hoppy and fruity part of the beer. But yeah, hoppy side of things, back corners of the palate, you've certainly got a wee bit. You've certainly got a wee bit of earthiness in there. It's got a wee bit of bitterness, but as you move further forward, it develops a little bit more. It does develop a wee bit more kind of earthiness as well, a wee bit of herbal quality. But then as you push towards the front corners of the palate, it gets a little bit of floral aromaticity. But it's not that the green component in this beer is not too big actually. But round the front curve of the palate, there's a wee bit more of a lighter kind of grassy sort of thing, and a wee bit of zestiness. But the green component in this one, it's quite a wet, green, leafy sort of element that you get out of this beer. So I like how I do like how it goes about its business from that perspective. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's quite interesting too. So let's focus on that front third of your palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a bit of a bready build up in there, a wee bit of a bread crust, but then the base of that front third of your palate, soft white bread, then you know, and then a kind of you do get a wee bit of that crispness to it as well actually. But yeah, I do like how it goes together. In that sense, the base of the front third of your palate in this beer again just amplifies the whole soft vibe that this beer has. But sitting on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. And so, pardon me, on the back of that front third of your palate, you certainly get a little bit more of a, you know, you get a wee bit of a kind of passion fruit note there, but not a lot. And as you move further forward from that, you can feel that it's sort of apricot-y. In the base, there's potentially a wee bit of a juicier mango sitting on top of that, and maybe a wee bit of pineapple. And again, these soft notes do make me wonder about Idaho 7. Could it be Idaho 7 that's in this? But yeah, back half of that front third of your palate is all about these softer, tropical, fruity notes. Absolutely. So yeah, moving into the front half of that front third of your palate though, you get a bit more of a kind of juicy tangerine element coming out of it. But yeah, lighter sort of tangerine note in there, like I say. A wee bit. I do get a wee bit of coconut underneath as well. So I do wonder, is it Sabro and Idaho 7? There's just two. This is just from experience. I'm guessing this. I always used to like playing guess the hops, but these days with the number of hops you have, it's nigh impossible. Azaka might be another candidate because the beer, it does get a wee bit more zesty towards the front tip of the tongue. So Azaka would give you a little bit of that, but yeah, there's a wee bit of pineapple in there as well, and Azaka is also going to amplify that. So yeah, I'd be curious to know what the sort of hoppy backbone of this beer is, but whatever it is in this one, I certainly can appreciate how it goes about its business. Soft, tropical, fruity, and a nice wee bit of zestiness to it. So thumbs up to Beerium for this one. I think they've pulled off a solid beer with this. So yeah, interesting stuff. I think that's definitely fair to say. The soft fruity side of this one is quite nice, and it's got a good balance between the sort of lighter tangerine note but the softer tropical fruits as well. So we can say thumbs up to the brewery for this one. I think they've done a good job here. So yeah. Yeah. So I think that covers everything we need to say about the flavour of the beer, to be honest with you. But like I say, soft, bready, New England IPA, absolutely. In terms of the kind of overall, in terms of the overall sort of how would you say, in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer, then I would describe this beer as being, it's into the full-bodied category. This is definitely one of the thickest New England IPAs I can think of that I've come across. Creamy is maybe a right word, but sort of like wet bready, I think, is a good descriptor for this one. But yeah, the malt base, like we say, it's got a soft, kind of barley malt kind of base to it. There's definitely a lot of creaminess to this one as well. The sweetness isn't as much as I would have thought it was going to be from the aroma, right enough. So the malt base, as I say, it's quite fluffy and layered in a sense, if you like. So that's a point to take away. The yeast is obviously going to contribute to that as well. But in terms of hoppy bitterness and things, I think this is a fairly standard, 20 IBUs. It's quite low in terms of its IBU count, and it's very soft again. And then the fruity side of the beer is kind of soft and juicy. It's not oily or anything like that. But yeah, I do like how this goes together. So yeah, interesting. Combination, this beer. As I say, it is very much like a kind of almost homebrewed New England IPA. This one, it's definitely got a bit of that kind of micro-brewed rawness to it, which I do like. I like that when you go to these very small breweries and you can just feel that it's like a big home brewery almost, and you do get that vibe out of this beer. But I think out of the three sort of IPA type beers that we've tried, my favourite probably would be the Local Memory, the Pale Ale, the more West Coasty one. I really enjoyed that. The Black IPA was very nice as well. The two New Englands that we've had have been nice, but as I say, the Local Memory, the Pale Ale, just stood out to me a little bit more than these two. And the Black IPA, as I say, was nicely crafted as well. But honestly, I think we can leave it at that for this beer. This was the El Indio, 7.3% New England IPA from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri in Surte in Ala municipality to the north of Gothenburg. Enjoyed these ones, and I'm curious to see what their Imperial Stout is going to have in store for us in a few videos' time. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that one. But thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerium Kraftölsbryggeri as well. And as I say, we've got one more review to come from these guys, and I'm sure we'll do more beyond that in the near future. But thank you again for watching. Check out my social media. Check out Beerium's social media as well, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Slange, skull, cheers, and see you soon.